Hello everyone, my name is Simon and we are the Whales of Wall Street. Today we're going to look at the project Bepro, one of my favourite, and Steve's as well. And we have relatively good bags of this one. Let's go straight into it. So, now we've got the browser up, I'll just remove myself so you can see. So, Bepro is actually something that used to stand for Bet Protocol, so they actually rebranded themselves relatively recently. This is basically what they deem as a code as a service project built for the future of Web 3.0, pretty much the same thing. So, by the way, Web 3.0, which I think would be a great idea if we did a video on that, but that's basically like the new level of internet, essentially the evolution, great for developers, open source, and you get like compensation for using it. And I will do a video on that. Actually, it's a really cool little topic. But anyway, this is what it's designed for. It's designed for the next level of internet, next level of development, and open source opportunities. Oh, there we go. Took the words right out of my mouth here. Ignore this bit. This is all coding nonsense, JavaScript, but it's just basically kind of promoting themselves as to. I think developers would understand what this is, but it's obviously a bit of coding. Before we go into partners and stuff, I just wanted to emphasize on this point here. So Bepro is basically built around the betting protocol originally. That's why it was named. So this was around the betting or investing on real world actions or scenarios, or kind of like things like future events. And particularly one of their main niches is esports, which we'll go on to again in a second. But we did do a video recently of an update from Bepro with their partnership with Poker Market. We won't go into massive detail of that today because you can check out the other video, obviously. But I will make a note at the end of this, towards the end of this video, on that little partnership going on there as well. So let's just jump into a few bits and pieces here. So there's two aspects to Bepro, okay? So you've got Bepro.js, which is the JavaScript, that's what JS stands for, and you've got the network, which is actually recently launched. And to be fair, I haven't got a gigantic update on the network aspect because one, it is very new, and two, more of the developments coming at the end of this year, so we can update that as we go along. But some key points here. So the JavaScript, I think I've got a bit here actually. I won't read it out because that's pretty boring and you can do that yourselves. But my top line aspects of this, so it's basically around open source framework, essentially designed to speed up the building process of blockchain related capabilities. So things like smart contracts, etc., the languages within, and other aspects, arguably such as kind of things around the integration of staking and things like that, governance tokens, etc. So there's a lot of learning around that within the sort of scriptures, and to be clear, the services that are offered by Bepro cover two aspects. Okay, so they basically allow you to do this yourself, but have the support of Bepro team, or the Bepro teams, including all the developers and everything involved and everyone around that system, helping you guys out as like an external source. So that's something to bear in mind with what these guys are essentially about, and what they offer is two separate services. That kind of is how the JavaScript element and the networks element kind of separate themselves. So we're going into a bit more detail of that as we go on. So as I mentioned, one of the key targets of this area is around esports. So esports as a whole is obviously part of the bigger gaming arena, and we're talking about like $160 billion market, bigger than that really at its current point. I think esports covers around 300 million of that in terms of revenue. It might be a lot more than that now. I think we did a video recently on gaming, which I'll try and put at the end of this video if I remember. So that was his main target, and the reason they kind of picked that as a target is mainly around like where we're talking about like hedging for the future, trying to bet on things in the real world, a predictive market basically. So the idea eventually, as esports keeps growing, as we've seen with like football and other sports and betting and things like this, is betting on the outcomes of something in the near future, and using things like smart contracts to keep the authenticity of the bets and things like that, which we'll go on to in a bit more detail in a second. So I'm just going to remove myself again so we can see the screen. The network element. So the network element is basically providing the customer's needs as well for them. So it's a self-managed protocol, enabling token holders to manage disputes within the network. So that's where the governance areas come in, and the DAOs eventually as well. And it essentially the earning of tokens by providing value. So obviously the more value you provide, the more you get rewarded in that aspect as a developer, etc. So it's kind of linking kind of the developers and the operators, vice versa, within various companies that they have partnered with or are about to partner with. The JavaScript side of things. So what can you do with the JavaScript? So again, I won't go into gigantic detail, but there's a lot of really cool use cases on this site. Do go and check this site out. So we've got NFT collectibles, so you can essentially build or create, and of course with blockchain, with smart contracts, you are providing the ownership details or the data within blockchain, of course avoiding things like fraud, being able to essentially do cool things like providing how much scarcity there is, whether it's going to be a rare NFT or not, or a unique one, invisible one. Not sure what they mean by indivisible. Sorry, I've read that as invisible. I was wondering how on earth can you have invisible NFTs? You can't even see what you've bought. Okay, so yeah, indivisible, that makes more sense. Interoperability, so how does it work within other systems? So could you take that sort of to other games and things like that? So that's really cool. Digital art galleries, won't go into too much detail, but you've seen a lot of that out recently in the news, particularly in crypto. So allowing artists and creators to basically claim the proper ownership. So that goes back to the point in the NFT generalization of, with smart contracts and things, being able to prove and stop the copyright issues or imitations of things, especially when it comes to art. So that's really cool. Predictive market, which we kind of touched upon, I guess we can pull in the poker market situation here. So this is about the announcement of poker markets. So Bepro are actually helping poker market with the coding side of things to back them with these elements here. So the predictive prediction market matching engine, DeFi backend infrastructure, solidity, frameworks, and general technology advisory. So we can kind of pull those points in what I'm about to say in a minute anyway. But it's a massive opportunity. Poker market is absolutely huge, a huge DeFi power prediction market platform, and it's great to see Bepro being utilized for that aspect, and you'll see why in a minute, of some other reasons why poker markets probably chose Bepro as a major partner for that. So back to the use cases, we've got DeFi in general, so creating the DeFi mechanism, things like staking, and helping towards the application of websites and apps in general, so looking into dApps and things like that. Then you've got the governance side. So when we're talking about like staking, the integration, things like that. So JavaScript is allowing these people to basically create the mechanism behind that for their various platforms that they're building, which is quite cool. And obviously the governance side of that as well. So with JavaScript, the idea behind the project of Bepro is to be easy and fast to use. So that's why they mention here quick and simple. That's the whole point of the Bepro JavaScript coding. You're utilizing developers, open source. It's been proven, which is actually a good point we'll go on to in a second. But yeah, that's the whole point of it. Nice and easy, and that's why companies like poker markets want to use them. And then staking, which we've already kind of mentioned, it kind of relates really to the governance side of things, to be honest. But it's about integration of the API, actually creating that platform of staking and the mechanism behind it, the coding behind it. So it's really cool things that they do there. And then you've got the network side of things. So as I mentioned in the beginning, there's two aspects of Bepro, the JavaScript and the network. So network is predominantly more around the allowing companies to be decentralized and outsource it, i.e. use Bepro as a mechanism, or the other way around, just utilizing the coding only. So it helps with things like disputes and settlements systems, kind of managed by the holders of Bepro. So when you do stake and things like that, like with any staking opportunity that you have out there, you're essentially contributing to not only the health but the infrastructure, using the tokenomics to help improve the systems. And the reason I said that I don't have a gigantic amount on the network is, one, there isn't much information on here, and two, their major announcements are coming towards the end of this year for this particular part of the project. So I will update you as we go along throughout the rest of the year for that. And one other really cool thing I wanted to pull together for you guys is the bug bounty. So this is basically providing hackers, can you believe, like, giving job to hackers? Absolutely fantastic. It's kind of like a role reversal here. They're allowing hackers or known hackers to basically act in good faith, i.e. please don't ruin our system, but we will reward you between $500 and $50,000 subject to them finding issues with the network or the platform, and then getting rewarded with that monetary incentivization. So it's absolutely phenomenal, really. A really nice little project there. But what's really important about this is around like the poker markets, where we went, just jumping back to some of the key things here, the Solidity frameworks, back-end infrastructure. These two elements here in terms of coding, and when you want something to work and not be hackable, or full-on encryption and everything like that, this is where this part comes in. And this is a service offered essentially not only to Bepro for themselves for their coding and frameworks, but to their clients to say, actually, we've gone through very ruthless checking of our systems and protocols to deliver you guys essentially a very safe and secure platform to use and coding protocol to use. And that's really important in today's world when we talk about privacy and security, and just general sort of data protection and confidence in these kind of projects before you start using them. I can imagine if I was a developer or something, or on one of the potential clients, and I'm looking for someone that's going to bring that kind of framework to me that's safe and secure, it's been tested, it's been essentially with this whole hacking thing tested on that side of it as well. That's just boosting confidence, and it makes you want to join that kind of partnership more and more. So that's a really interesting point. I thought I'd just jump that one in there. I think it's a really key point, especially when we're talking about regulations and hacking and things like this within cryptosphere. This really delves into finding a solution for that, essentially using the problem as the solution, which is always a good thing in any world scenario for sure. So that kind of covers that main part, to be honest. We've got pretty much most of the elements covered here. Already mentioned the poker markets as well. Don't be surprised to not see further partnerships as we go along as well throughout the year. But like I said, for me, Bepro is something I'm really interested in just from the esports aspect. I'm not a massive betting fan, but when it comes to gaming, as you've heard or seen in previous videos, because the experience I've had with esports in general, both playing personally, but more importantly in the real world of partnerships with companies I worked for in the past, I know the power of esports, and I know there's the opportunity for like the betting protocol kind of thing for esports is absolutely humongous. When I was a kid, there used to be like Games Master or something. I can't remember what it used to be called on Sky One, with the Games Guru and stuff. Since I was a kid, I've always watched competitive sport gaming, and people think it's a new thing. It's not. There's some really cool ESL documentaries on Netflix and things like that, or YouTube. Go and look at the history of internet cafes and things like that, and how old it actually is. It's just a new modern application because of social media, because of esports in general, the market flowing in, the amount of money the players are getting. It's all expanding, and this kind of solution, this kind of project, it will take it to another level of entertainment and infrastructure. So that's why I'm interested in it, and it is a low cap token at the moment. So it's one of those that's kind of like, it may not do anything for a while. Obviously, there's always risk with any cryptos. None of this is financial advice. It's just my personal opinion, and something that Steve does as well with this particular project. We're very level on this in the bags and everything. But of course, one key thing for this is if it does take off, which I'm sure it will. From the research that I've done, I feel very comfortable personally that this will take off, and it could be massive, absolutely massive. And that's just the risk that I've personally taken. That's, again, not financial advice, not saying you should or shouldn't buy Bepro. Do your own research, it's very important. But I feel strongly about anything related with esports, and particularly things like this. We'll just go to this chart here. I'm just going to make sure that it's on the screen properly so you can actually see the whole thing yourselves rather than a load of mess behind me. So at the moment, the price is currently sat literally just over 1 cent. That sounds a bit mad and low compared to many other crypto assets out there, but it's not about price. It's about the project, and it's about the market cap. So don't worry about the price right now. Don't think it's cheap or expensive. Just think about the project. So what we got here is, previously, I think we got as high as just over 4.5 cents in the last cycle. Which was around sort of the March, April time. I don't do any specific trading on this one in particular. I'm more about accumulation right now, and probably for the next couple of years or so. But for those that do trade, obviously there's still movement within this next cycle for sure to get back to those stages. But if I was going to be doing like a price prediction, again, none of this is like financial advice or anything like that. It's just personal opinion based on the research that I've done, previous history of this token. I wouldn't be surprised to see this hitting over 10 cents and getting maybe to the 12 to 16 cent mark in this next bull run. Some are saying a bit higher to like $1. I just can't see that happening. No way. Certainly in this cycle. If it does happen, then wow, fair enough, and I'm wrong. But I'm going to be realistic, keep it low level. It could go to 20-30 cents, of course. It could go lower than 1 cent, who knows. But I generally feel with the progression of the network and the news that we'll get at the end of the year, which will push it, I believe, to that sort of 16 cent mark, I believe. I know it sounds a bit of a random number. I would say 15, but I always like to go a bit more. So I'd say around maybe the 16 cent mark that we could achieve this year. Hopefully it's more. We'll see. But next levels, of course, we've had some drill down in the market across the board, to be honest. It's one of the few tokens that hasn't matched all the other ones in terms of the V that we've seen in the last week or so. It's just had like a relatively steady growth, and a lot of this came from the poker market announcement in the last few days or so, which we did the video on, and I'll put a link at the end of this one as well. We've seen a bit of a tail off of that now, and hopefully it won't go back down to the original cost, unless of course you feel like wanting to buy more cheaper. I did buy mine, majority of those at that kind of price, but way back in I think February, March time. So it hasn't moved much over the last 6 months, but what I'm hoping for is this stability and a push up to that 1 cent mark as a support line, which, like I said, we're just creeping over it and hopefully stabilizing that. And then maybe, just maybe, we might start pushing towards the 2 cent mark in the next few weeks, hopefully. Let's see. I'll do a track of this and keep you guys updated if I start seeing some proper support levels, and then I can perhaps dictate a bit better whether it's going higher or lower, and I'll do a video on that as well. So that kind of wraps this video up, guys. I hope you found it relatively informative. Please do let us know in the comments below if you're investing in Bepro, if it's something you're interested in, and you know, anything that you find particularly interesting in Bepro, do let us know. What's your price prediction for 2021? Let us know in the comments as well. Always interested in reading everyone's comments, and we always reply as well. I can guarantee it. Go and check out every video. I can assure you we reply to all of them. And if I don't, then you can tell me in the comments and I'll reply to you saying sorry. So as I said, hope you found that relatively informative. Please do like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. We're pushing for the 500. Let's go. We're not too far off now, so let's do it together. And yeah, hopefully that just wraps that up, and we will see you and Bepro on the moon. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Bepro 2.0